Seed starting can be super hard to master, and for so many years I spent tons of money at the garden center buying live seedlings to put them in my garden, but that gets expensive really fast. And you're limited to only what they have at the garden center. So by starting your own seeds, you can actually open up an entire another world of seeds and varieties that you can plant from scratch for food for your family. And over the years, I have become an expert at starting seeds, and you can too, as long as you follow these 7 rules to live by for seed starting. Let's go. Welcome to Mini Urban Farm, a channel about growing and raising food in the suburbs. If that's your thing, don't forget to subscribe and check out my course on growing tons of organic food in your backyard in only a few hours per week. Alright, so the first rule to live by is that you need the right medium. Alright, you cannot use regular potting soil, you cannot use any old seed starting soil, you have to get the right mix. Alright, so this is my seed starting soil, and it is what I start all of my seeds in. You can see that it is somewhat crumbly, right? It sticks together, holds for a little bit of time, but it is really nice and fluffy and airy, and that is super important in a seed starting mix. So these are the 2 ingredients that I use to make it. Sometimes I do add in some vermiculite and some perlite, but if you don't have it, then that's fine too. This one doesn't have any. You can see it doesn't have like any of those white little bead looking things in it. So this is peat moss and cow manure compost. You can use different types of compost. This one is the one that I get cheapest at the local garden center I have, but then I also sometimes use my own compost when I have it. This time I didn't, so I went ahead and got some of that compost. Alright, so this is actually one of the most important tips I can give you about seed starting, is to not discount this at all. Alright, you are going to want to use the right seed starting soil, because what happens when you use the wrong seed starting soil is that you plant your little seed inside of this little ball. Alright, imagine that my hands are the soil and the seedling is trapped inside that little ball of super dense topsoil or potting soil or whatever you used, and it can't come out of this little ball. But when the seed starting soil that you use is nice and airy and fluffy, more like this, alright, then that gives the seed a lot of room to actually pop its head up through the soil. When I started using the right seed starting soil, that eliminated a big part of the problem as to why my seeds wouldn't germinate, alright? So do not discount this step. If you are using the wrong type of soil, basically any other type of soil besides seed starting soil, then you're going to want to change to use this type of soil, and you're going to see that your seedlings and your seeds do way better. Alright, so for this next one, I have to come into the greenhouse and show you exactly what I'm talking about, alright? And it is the type of watering that you're providing your little seedlings and your seeds. Alright, this is going to be more so when your seeds germinate, alright, so when they actually grow leaves and you can actually see the seedling in the soil, but I'll give you a second part of this for before they germinate, alright? And so it is the type of watering that you're going to be providing. Now you can see that all of my little tomato seedlings, these are my Everglade tomato seedlings for my food forest that are going to go out soon into the food forest. They are all in these containers, alright? And these are 10 by 20 containers. They do not have any drainage holes, alright? And if I show you, the rest of my seedlings also have these same type of containers, alright? Everything that I grow is in these little trays. Alright, and that basically provides watering from the bottom, right? So you can see it's a little wet in there. They do need to be refilled, but there you go. We have actually some really nice roots on these tomatoes. And what this does is it allows these roots to come through the drainage holes on the bottom of the pot and soak up water in these trays, alright? I do need to refill them, but they are still quite wet. So all of these little tomatoes growing their roots, the roots are directly in the water. You can see that one has like a ton of roots back there growing, and the water is being soaked up without me having to water them every day. I have not watered these tomatoes in at least a week and a half, and they are still doing really well because every once in a while I come in and I just water them from the bottom. I refill this tray and then here we go. I refill that tray, and then all of them get watered at the exact same time. Now let's say that your seedling has not started growing yet, right? And you're just watering them with a hose from the top so that they can grow their roots and get started. My hose nozzle here has so many different settings, all right, but there's one specific one. You can tell this is super worn out already because I've used it so much, but there's one specific setting that I like to use for starting seeds, and that is the mist setting. This setting is going to be so much better for starting your seeds than the shower setting or the flat setting because it provides a really thin layer of water over your seedling, which is super important because the last thing that you want to do is pour tons of water on top of these little tiny seeds that you just planted, and then they scatter everywhere and you don't end up with any seeds still left in that container. There have been so many times where I do this. I will take the shower nozzle on the hose head and I will, douse the entire thing with water because I'm in a hurry, or I will take the manual watering can and just pour all of the water on top of my seedlings. Now that might work fine for something like a bean seed where the seed is much larger, all right, like maybe half an inch of a seed or even something that's a quarter of an inch. But a lot of my arugula seeds, my flower seeds, and my ground cherry seeds, a lot of things that I like to grow are very, very small seeds. And what happens if you are just dousing them with water is that they float to the top of the water and then they just fall over the side of the container, or they end up in other containers, all right, which happens all the time if you're not using a very fine mist. So that is super important. If you are wondering what happened to all of your seeds at the end of a few weeks and you cannot find them, that might have been the culprit. Now, this next one is something that I had to learn the hard way, and it is to use some sort of warmth, all right, even though I am in Central Florida and it is warm here pretty much all the time. I do use a greenhouse, whether it's a small tabletop greenhouse or this one that I can actually walk inside of, but it's really important to get the humidity up when starting seedlings. And the thing is, even if I get the humidity up, right, because it's super humid outside, I am in a climate where it rains a lot, especially during the times of year where you want to start your seeds. So not only is my greenhouse or some sort of protection or cover for the seed or the seedling very important for increasing the humidity, but it also prevents the rain from knocking out all of my seedlings, all right, and washing them all away. I've had so many times where I go to start my seeds and I set them outside on top of a patio table, and then just it pours and all of the seedlings kind of get mixed together, or they wash out, or just something happens with the rain and I just can't find them, or they blow away in the winds. So using a greenhouse or some sort of protection is super important, and if you are not getting enough humidity in your area, which is very likely because even here in Florida the humidity is not high enough, I would encourage you to use some sort of a greenhouse. I will link the one I have on Amazon. It's actually really inexpensive and it works really, really well. Or just cover your seedlings with a little plastic bag or one of those containers that comes in a seed starting setup. All right, so this next one is actually a very simple one that you can fix if you are not aware that you're doing it. For this, I'm gonna show you my seed starting packets, all right? So let's take, for instance, this botanical interest set of milkweed seeds, all right? So on the back of the seed packet, you're gonna wanna look for the age of these seeds, all right? And it's super simple to find. They all have it. They're all in different places, so I'll show you a different one also. But this one has the expiration date, or rather the sell-by date, right here, all right? It says sell by December 31st, 2023. And this pack of celery by Baker Creek actually has it here at the very top, all right? And it says basically the same thing, packed for 2023. And there's the sell by date. Now, you can still start them after, right, the sell by date. You can still start them even after an expiration date. However, most seeds will have a diminishing germination rate after those dates, all right? So if I go to start these same seeds in 2026, I'm probably not gonna get the same germination rate, and the seeds that do germinate might be old. They might not have, the best characteristics of those seedlings. So just keep in mind that they do have an expiration date. You can still use them, and I have grown things from seed packets that are old, or even ones that I have saved myself and I use them years in the future, but you will not have as high success rates with those seeds as you do if you get new seeds that are packed for this year and they're within the time frame allotted to use the seeds. The next rule that I live by for seed starting is to have patience, all right? And I don't mean this in a you have to have patience when doing anything kind of way. I mean it in a very technical way. So let me show you what I mean. On the back of this seed packet, right, these are cowpeas. On the back of this seed packet, with all of this information along the side here, you're gonna look for this little date right here, or rather this set of dates, and it says sprouts in, all right, 7 to 14 days. So one right here. And these milkweed seeds say something very similar, starts in 14 to 28 days. Now, if you are an impatient gardener like I am, all right, you might be checking on your little seeds, waiting for them to poke their heads out of the soil, almost every day or every other day. All right, and if you do this continuously, you will notice that there will be nothing for quite a long time. All right, that is at least 2 to 4 weeks for these milkweed seeds, and if I'm checking them every couple days, I'm probably going to be really disappointed for a long time. So a lot of times I get comments like, you know, my seeds aren't germinating, or, you know, what am I doing wrong? They're not starting quickly. How do I get them to start faster? Now, sometimes you're just gonna have to wait is the answer to that. And I'm guilty of it too, not wanting to wait for my, you know, seeds to come out of the soil. And sometimes I've even tossed those seeds away thinking that, you know, it's not gonna do anything. The most recent example I have is I started guava from seeds, all right? I had a guava, a fruit, and I started those seeds, and I was really disappointed that all of my other seeds germinated, but these 2 little guava seeds, they actually didn't grow at all. Come to find out, you know, a few weeks later, I went back into my greenhouse, all right here actually. I went back in, and now there is brand new little green growth because they take much longer than everything else, all right? So you have to have patience, and if your seeds are not germinating, just give them a little bit more time. Maybe do some research as to, you know, how many weeks those things actually do take to germinate before you get rid of them. Now, the last rule to live by is a little bit easier said than done, I will tell you, but it is something that I've learned the hard way, and that is to start extra seeds, but not the whole packet. I always decide how many of those types of vegetable I want, right? So if I want 6 tomato plants, I'll usually start between 8 to 10 seedlings or 8 to 10 seeds. Those will become seedlings, hopefully, and then I can pick the best ones from there. But if you have a packet of seeds, all right, and this has tons of seeds in it, I think it says minimum 50 seeds in here. If I don't want 50 plants, then you're probably not gonna want to plant all 50 of them. Number one, you're just wasting money, all right, because these can be expensive depending on the type of vegetable you're growing. But also you're gonna have to get rid of those seedlings. If I plant 50 of these seeds and I only want 10 and all of them grow, then I'm gonna have to go in and painfully go and thin out every single one of the ones I don't want. And I hate doing that because it's just wasted money, wasted resources. And yes, I can, you know, put them in compost or give them to the chickens or whatever else, but it's still painful to have to go and rip out little baby seedlings that could have been a whole plant, and I could have used those seeds for later. So don't blindly start the entire packet of seeds, but, you know, calculate out how many vegetable plants you want, or how many of that type of vegetable or that type of flower or whatever it is that you're trying to grow. Calculate out how many you want or how many you need for your family, and then grow a little bit extra, but not the whole packet. Now, these are my rules to live by when seed starting, but of course, getting the timing of your seeds is essential to making sure your seeds turn into seedlings, all right? I have an entire video that I did on how to calculate the best time to plant your seeds, including a free, easy, automatic, no work resource that you can use, and I've linked that video right here, so go check that out. See you guys in the next one.